I never thought I'd be one of those guys who got cheated on, especially not by my wife of 3 years, Lisa. We met in college, and I always thought we had a good thing going. She was a bit of a bitch sometimes, honestly. She could be pretty bossy, and she had no problem throwing around insults when she didn't get her way. But I loved her, or at least I thought I did. We got married in a small ceremony, just close friends and family, and I genuinely believed I was with the woman I was going to spend the rest of my life with. The first signs that something was off started small. Little things. She'd be more distant, secretive about her phone. I'd catch her deleting messages, or she'd get weirdly defensive if I asked about her day. Honestly, I chalked it up to stress or her wanting to keep her independence. She's always been kind of a wild one, very flirtatious, always had guys hitting on her, but she'd brush it off, say it was harmless. Still, I didn't think much of it at first. I trusted her. Or maybe I was just too blind to see what was really going on. Then came the honeymoon. We went to the Bahamas for a week, and that's when everything started to unravel. I noticed her phone pinging at odd hours. She'd quickly hide it whenever I wandered close. The way she was acting toward me changed, too. She was less affectionate, more snippy. I told myself it was just stress from work or maybe pre-wedding nerves. But one night I got curious. We were lying in bed, and I saw her phone light up on the nightstand. She usually kept it face down, but that night I couldn't resist. I reached over and grabbed it. The screen lit up, and I saw a message from someone named Chris. The message was simple, something about meeting up and a wink emoji. My stomach dropped, but I didn't say anything. I kept scrolling, and that's when I found it. A string of texts, flirty, suggestive, filled with talk about sex, how much she wanted to see him again, how she couldn't wait to be alone with him. It was like a punch to the gut. I felt frozen, trying to process what I was reading while my mind raced. My wife was cheating on me, and I had no idea. All those times I thought she was just being difficult, just a bit of a handful. Turns out she was sneaking around, lying right to my face. I wanted to scream, to yell at her, but I stayed quiet. Part of me was numb. I had always trusted her, and now I saw this side of her I never knew existed. I felt so stupid for not seeing the signs, for ignoring the little things. I wondered how long this had been going on, how many nights she'd been spending with him, how many times I'd been completely blind to what was happening right under my nose. I kept staring at that phone, replaying those messages in my head, feeling like I was in some bad movie I couldn't wake up from. I thought about confronting her right then and there, but I didn't want to break down. I didn't want her to see how much this hurt, how betrayed I felt. I needed to think, to plan what to do next. So I put the phone back on the nightstand, turned over and stared at the ceiling. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, heard her lie, and saw that stupid emoji. How could she have been so blind? How could she have betrayed me like this? I kept asking myself that over and over again. I knew deep down I couldn't stay, not after this. But I didn't have a plan yet. All I knew was that my world had just been shattered, and I was left picking up the pieces of what I thought was a perfect life. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind was racing, replaying what I saw on her phone, trying to figure out what to do. I didn't want to just pack up and leave without thinking, but I also knew I couldn't ignore what I'd found. I had to confront her. There was no way I could keep pretending everything was okay. Still, I hesitated. How do you confront someone you trust so blindly about something so devastating? Lisa was still sleeping when I got out of bed. I sat on the edge, watching her breathe, feeling a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and confusion. She looked so innocent in her sleep, but I knew better now. I had seen the texts, those damn texts that proved she'd been lying to my face for months. How could she look me in the eyes and deny everything? She was so good at lying, so bitchy when she wanted to be, and I was just stupid enough to believe her. I finally decided I couldn't hold it in. I woke her up gently, but my voice was cold. Lisa, I saw the messages, the ones from Chris. Tell me what the hell is going on. She blinked sleep out of her eyes, then immediately started with her usual bitchy tone. Oh, come on, Jason. It's not what it looks like. You're overreacting. It's just sex, and it's not a big deal. We've been arguing a lot lately, and I was just venting. I felt my stomach turn. That was her excuse. Just sex. I knew her well enough to know she was full of shit. She had always been manipulative, twisting things to make herself look innocent, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I tore into her, asking how long she'd been cheating, why she did it, who Chris really was. She rolled, her eyes acting like I was blowing things out of proportion. Look, Jason, I don't owe you an explanation. Yeah, I messed up, but it's not like I love him or anything. It's just sex and I was bored. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. That moment I realized she wasn't even sorry. Her words were cold, dismissive, like I was just some inconvenience. My heart was pounding. I felt betrayed, humiliated. How could she be so callous? I thought about all those nights I stayed up worrying, trying to make things work, and she was out screwing some guy behind my back. That's when it hit me. I needed to do something fast. I couldn't let her keep lying, keep pretending everything was fine. I had to make her see that I knew everything, that I was done being played. I told her I needed some space, that I couldn't stay under the same roof anymore. She scoffed, acted like I was overreacting, but I didn't care. I was done listening to her BS. I spent the rest of the day trying to process everything, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut repeatedly. I started thinking about how I was going to handle this, whether I was going to fight for the marriage or walk away. Honestly, I was leaning toward walking away, but I wanted to see what her next move was. If she thought she could just lie her way out of it, she was dead wrong. The worst part was that I still loved her, or at least I thought I did. But love doesn't survive when you find out your wife is screwing your best man during your honeymoon. That kind of betrayal doesn't just burn, it destroys everything. I kept asking myself how blind I'd been, how I missed all the signs. I kept wondering how many nights she'd been with him, how much of my life she'd been lying about. I felt so stupid, so naive. And now all I wanted was to figure out what comes next, whether I fight for her or finally let go. After I told Lisa I needed space, I thought I'd have at least a little peace. Nope. She kept pushing, acting like I was overreacting, trying to manipulate me with that snarky attitude of hers. It was typical Lisa, bitchy, dismissive, like she didn't think she'd done anything wrong, but I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. I could feel the anger boiling inside me, mixed with a deep sadness I couldn't shake. I kept replaying those texts, that secret thrill she got from sneaking around, and I couldn't understand how I'd been so blind. I knew I had to do something, so I started gathering evidence. Not just for myself, but for whoever I might need to confront later. I secretly recorded her when she was out, listening to her lie and deny everything. I was careful, don't want her catching on just yet. I also started digging through her phone when she wasn't around, looking for more proof, more of the lies she'd been hiding. Every new piece made my stomach churn. I found messages with Chris that went beyond just flirtation. They were talking about meeting up, sex, and how they couldn't wait to see each other again. That was it. No more pretending. I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. One night, I decided I'd had enough. I called her into the living room, trying to keep my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Lisa, I've seen enough. I know about Chris. I know everything. Her face twisted into that bitchy sneer she always put on when she was trying to act innocent. Oh, Jason, you're crazy. You're reading too much into this. Those texts mean nothing. Yeah, right, just sex. That's what she said last time. Now she was trying to act like I was the one losing it. I had no patience left. I told her I couldn't trust her anymore, that I wanted her out of the house, she wasn't welcome to stay and lie to my face any longer. Her reaction only made my blood boil more. She threw a fit, started yelling, calling me paranoid, accusing me of spying on her. You're so controlling, she spat. You think I'm some kind of cheating slut. You're just jealous because I don't want your boring ass anymore. That's when I realized how lost she was. She was so damn good at lying, so bitchy and manipulative, she actually thought she could convince me she was innocent. But I knew better. I felt like I was finally waking up from some terrible dream. All those times I'd tried to make her happy, tried to fix things, and she was just out, screwing around. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so stupid. The anger was building up inside me and I knew I had to make a choice. I told her to pack her bags, that she wasn't staying here anymore. I wanted her gone before I lost my mind. She stormed off, still screaming about how I was overreacting, how she loved me and that I was just jealous. But I didn't buy her bullshit anymore. That night I stayed up late, staring at the ceiling, feeling like my whole world was crumbling. I'd loved her, believed in us, and now I saw her for what she really was, a lying, sneaky bitch who had been screwing my best man on our honeymoon. How the hell did I let it get this far? I kept asking myself that over and over. All I knew was that I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I had to decide whether to fight for her or finally cut ties. Either way, I knew my life was never going to be the same. The betrayal cut deep, and I was just trying to figure out how to pick up the broken pieces. The days that followed were a blur. I moved into the guest bedroom trying to keep some distance from Lisa, who was still acting like nothing had happened. She kept throwing jabs, acting bitchy and dismissive like she thought I'd come crawling back. But I wasn't interested in her apologies or her fake tears. Honestly, I was just numb. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. How I missed all the signs, how I ignored her sneaky behavior, all those little lies. The betrayal hit me hard, and now I was stuck trying to process the devastation she'd caused. I knew I needed to talk to someone, so I called my brother, Mark. He's always been the straight shooter in the family, and I trusted his judgment more than anyone. Told him everything. About the texts, her lies, the affair, how I felt like a complete idiot for not seeing it coming. Mark was furious, calling her a bitch and telling me I deserved better. For the first time, I felt a tiny spark of hope that I could get through this. But that hope was also mixed with anger, frustration, and just pure heartbreak. One night, Lisa came into the room, bitchy as ever, and started trying to spin her usual bullshit. She denied everything, said I was paranoid, that Chris wasn't anything serious. That was laughable. She insisted it was just sex, and she didn't mean for any of it to hurt me. Yeah, right. Her words only made me more furious. I looked at her and thought, how many lies is she going to tell before she realizes I'm done? I told her I didn't want to hear her excuses anymore. That I was done being her punching bag, done being the fool she'd been using for her own pleasure. I decided I needed a plan. I started thinking about what I wanted to do next. I knew I couldn't stay with her, not after all this. But I also knew I had to be smart about it. I wasn't just going to pack up and walk out without some leverage. My biggest fear was her trying to manipulate me, or worse, smear me if I decided to leave. So I started documenting everything, screenshots of the texts, recording her when she thought I wasn't listening, saving all her bitchy responses. I wanted to make sure I had proof if I needed it. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her act, trying to guilt-trip me, acting like she was the victim. She'd whine, call me controlling, accuse me of not trusting her. I just sat there, biting my tongue, feeling the rage simmer inside. How could she be so damn manipulative? How could she lie so effortlessly? I realized that she'd been playing me from the start, and I'd been too blind or too in love to see it. Now I was angry at myself for not noticing sooner, for not seeing the signs of her sneaking around. But mostly I was furious at her for the betrayal. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, her cheating, her lies, her bitchy attitude. I knew I needed to move on, but I didn't know how. All I knew was that I couldn't stay in this toxic mess. I was hurt, angry, and exhausted. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity, like I'd finally woken up from some horrible nightmare. I'd loved her once, but now I saw her for what she really was, a lying, manipulative bitch who didn't care about me at all. I had to decide whether I was going to fight for the marriage or cut my losses. Either way, I knew my life was about to change forever. The pain was real, but so was the need to rebuild. And honestly, I wasn't sure if I was ready for that yet. The next few weeks were pure hell. I kept my distance from Lisa, not just physically but emotionally. Every time I saw her bitchy smirk or heard her dismissive tone, it made me angrier. I couldn't get her out of my head, those texts, her lies, her betrayal. It felt like my world was crumbling around me, and I was just trying to hold it together. I spent hours researching what to do, talking to friends, trying to get some perspective. But honestly, I felt lost, betrayed, humiliated, and furious at her for turning my life upside down. One day, I decided I couldn't just sit around waiting for her to spin her next lie or manipulate her way out of this. I needed to confront her head on. I told her I wanted to talk. She rolled her eyes but agreed. We sat in the living room, her bitchy attitude fully on display. I was calm but firm, laying everything out: the messages I found, her lies, her sneaky behavior. I told her I knew about Chris and how it was over for me. I needed her to understand that I wasn't going to be her fool anymore. She looked at me, eyes cold. "Jason, you're overreacting. It's just sex. It meant nothing. I was upset, bored, whatever you want to call it. I didn't mean to hurt you." That was her go-to line, her favorite way to dump her guilt and make herself look innocent, but I wasn't buying it. I told her I didn't believe her anymore, that she'd been lying for months, sneaking around, and I didn't want to be with someone who didn't respect me. I told her to leave, that I wanted her out of my life for good. Her bitchy smirk only grew wider. "Fine," she snapped. "If you want to play the martyr, go ahead. You're just mad because I don't chase after you anymore. Honestly, Jason, I'm better off without your controlling ass." That hit hard. I was used to her throwing her weight around, but hearing her say she was better off without me stung worse than I expected. Still, I knew this was the moment. If I was going to do something, it had to be now. I told her I'd hire a lawyer if I had to. I wanted her out of the house, out of my life, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way back into my good graces. She threw a fit, screaming about how she loved me, how she'd never cheat, and how I was just overreacting because I was insecure. I looked at her, feeling exhausted and disgusted all at once. How could she lie so easily? How could she pretend she cared? I finally realized I'd been a complete fool to trust her. After she stormed off, I sat alone in the living room, feeling a strange mix of relief and despair. I knew I had to move on, but part of me still wondered, could I forgive her? Could I fix this? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her texts, her sneers, her lies. I kept asking myself how I let her get away with this for so long. The truth was, I'd been blind, and now I was paying the price. I didn't want to be a victim anymore. I was done being played, and deep down, I knew I had to find a way to rebuild my life, even if it meant starting over from scratch. The pain was real, but so was my resolve to finally take control and put an end to this nightmare. In the weeks that followed, I took deliberate steps to heal and move forward. I filed for divorce, something I never thought I'd have to do, but at that point, there was no other option. Lisa fought it, of course, throwing her bitchy fits, trying to manipulate the situation, but I stopped her every time. I had enough evidence now, enough internal strength to end this nightmare. I started focusing on myself, going back to the gym, reconnecting with friends, and slowly rebuilding my confidence. It was not an easy process. Trust had been shattered and the pain lingered, but I knew I couldn't let her betrayal define me. Looking back, I realize I've learned a lot from this mess. One of the biggest lessons is not to ignore the small signs, those little behaviors that seemed insignificant at the time. The secretive phone, the dismissiveness, the constant lying, any one of those should have been a red flag, but I was too blind, too in love, or maybe just too trusting. Now I see that trust needs to be earned every day, and if it's broken, it's not so easy to fix. Another thing I learned is to listen to my instincts. When something doesn't feel right, it usually is. I should have spoken up sooner, pushed harder, demanded the truth instead of pretending everything was fine. I also realized that sometimes love isn't enough to save a relationship. If the foundation is built on lies and betrayal, it's doomed from the start. As for Lisa, well, she's moved on, no doubt. She's probably still the same bitchy, manipulative person she always was. Honestly, I don't care anymore. I've accepted that some people just aren't worth the pain, and letting go is the only way to find peace. I'll never forget what she did, but I also won't let it define my future. I've learned to trust myself again, to value honesty, and most importantly, to respect my own boundaries. In the end, I guess I want to tell anyone going through something similar: don't stay silent. Don't ignore the signs. If someone betrays you, take control, cut your losses, and walk away if you have to. Because at the end of the day, your happiness and self-respect are what matter most. And no matter how much it hurts, time does heal. You just have to have the courage to face the truth, even when it's ugly.